Welcome back, Truth Seeker. November 11th, 2018. On the old Julian calendar, we're on the Gregorian calendar now. Around the time this nation was being established, the United States, the world was converting from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, which pretty much bumped us 2 months ahead in time. We used to be on September 11th on this day, the 9th month, 9. So 9-month, 11th day. And did you notice what's in the headlines today? Joe Biden congratulating George W. Bush, who was president when 9/11 happened. This might sound silly, but I'm going to give you a link in why you're hearing about Anthony Bourdain's final episode set in New York today, and George W. Bush receiving this medal from Joe Biden on what used to be 9/11 on the old calendar. There's a link here. It's mathematical. So, George W. Bush, he graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones in 1968, exactly 33 years before 2001. In that year, 911 was made the national emergency dialing code by AT&T. The first 911 call made February 16th, 1968. If you missed my video earlier this week on that man, how he died on November 6th, you should check that out. 911 upside down. But anyway, 1968, three big things happened. 911 made the national emergency dialing code, World Trade Center construction begins, and George W. Bush graduates from Yale and Skull and Bones, a society that identifies by a number, 322. If you've never seen Tim Russert ask John Kerry and George W. Bush, both being in Yale Skull and Bones, 322, when they were both running for president in 2004, the Democratic frontrunner and the Republican frontrunner. You should go back and check that out. They say Tim Russert died at 2:23 from an unexpected heart attack while on vacation with his son. Anyway, did I mention that from George W. Bush's birthday, July 6th, to September 11th is a span of 68 days? 68. Space Odyssey 2001 also came out. The Jets won their only Super Bowl. Don't get me started on the Jets and Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady and the Patriots after the Patriot Act after 9/11. That's another topic. But anyway, 911, 33 years later from the emergency dialing code to the attack on September 11th. And what's interesting about that is 911 is the 156th prime number. 9/11, the 156th prime. If you write out 33 as a word, THIRTY, and then you use the alphabetic order to turn those letters into numbers, so T is the 20th letter, so T is 20, H is the 8th, I is the 9th, R is the 18th, T is the 20th, Y is the 25th, so on. If you write out 33 and add up the letters, it sums to 156. So 911's the 156th prime. From 68 to 2001 was 33 years later. When you write out 33, it sums to 156, which is a number that has a mathematical relationship with 9/11. Now today, the final episode of Anthony Bourdain is set in New York, where 911 predominantly happened. And consider New York's the 11th state. Today's 11/11, Veterans Day, military. 9/11, after it happened, we've been at everlasting war. A lot of new veterans being remembered today because of that event. From Anthony Bourdain's death, June 8th, which was blamed on a suicide, which I highly doubt. From June 8th to today is 156 days later. 156. And again, 9/11, the 156th prime. Today, 11/11/2018, date numerology of 33. 11 plus 11 plus 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 8. In numerology, that's a path called your life lesson number. And I'm not a numerology expert, but I can read a book and say, oh, okay, this is how you can calculate your life lesson number, and then I can observe it. So anyway, today has this 33 date numerology. New York even has Gematria of 33, numerical value of 33. That's not where you use the alphabetic order, though. It's where you flip the alphabetic order around and use numerology. There's multiple methods. New York, 33. So there's another thing in the headlines actually today that's interesting. The construction firm that built the World Trade Centers, they're from Seattle, Washington. Their name's Magnuson Klemenkic Associates. And that name has gematria of 156, right? Today, the big news story is this massive warehouse fire in Seattle from the Queen Anne neighborhood, which is actually where I lived when I moved to Seattle, so I know the area well. And the warehouses that are on fire are the ones that were commonly used for things like meetup. I can't tell you how many times I've gone there for some sort of gathering. And it's a cool spot because, you know, they're nice big warehouse lots on prime real estate at the top of what's known as Lake Union. If you've ever been to Seattle, it's where Gasworks Park is. The old history of Seattle when they used to do the, the old oil processing there, bringing boats in off the ocean, do the processing right there in Seattle, distribute. Old historic site in Seattle. It used to be a toxic lake that they've brought back. But anyway, that's prime real estate right there. And Seattle has real estate through the market, largely thanks to Amazon, which is also impacting New York in the headlines today. They're saying rumors that Amazon coming to New York has real estate even more. People are already getting driven out of New York because they can't afford to live there. A lot of people living in Seattle right now just came over from New York. But anyway, the firms that built the World Trade Centers, Magnuson Klemenkic Associates, the name equals 156. The name also sums to 111, like how New York equals 111, like how September 11th equals 111 days left in the year, or leaves 111 days left in the year. But anyway, just all these stories circulating today. Clear tribute and all involving 9/11. And this is what I've been educating people about for over 5 years now. For a long time, I saw that they were doing some sort of funny business, some sort of rituals in the daily news. And then I learned about this belief in mathematics and, letters into numbers and certain people that are into these practices. To learn more about, if you learn about gematria, it'll say it belongs to a certain group of people. And if you go back and look at 9/11, don't ever forget the dancing Israelis who were arrested in New Jersey and sent back to Israel and then went on their own television and said that they came to the United States to document the attacks that day because they had foreknowledge. And what I'm trying to say to you is, look, they had all this stuff planned out for decades, and we're still living out that plan. And it's only going to get worse if we don't stop it. And, people are going to be watching CNN's Anthony Bourdain, not realizing he was murdered. They're going to see George W. Bush getting congratulated today, not realizing that he was born into this agenda. I mean, it's obviously not his fault. He was just out of college when all this was planned. He was just the puppet in charge when it happened. But, he's getting honored today. People don't catch on that it's a tribute to 9/11. His family must be very proud. And then the whole thing with Seattle, that's just obvious real estate fraud. That's prime real estate in the city. It's right at the top of the lake. It's a lot of space. And the thing is about that space is it's been used for cool things in the city, such as, like I said, things like meetup. All sorts of things are hosted there. It's a place to get together and meet people. And, now it's probably going to become some prime condominiums or maybe even a hotel. A lot of big money coming into Seattle on daily business because of all the tech companies. People with a lot of money. So they just opened up a major investment, and I just realized I took the wrong turn today, but this is interesting, seeing some new stuff. Huh. This is a major agricultural town. There's some giant fruit processing plant here. Interesting. But anyway, today 11/11, 11 the master number in numerology. Some subtle and some not so subtle tributes to the date. Can you believe somebody's receiving a medal right now whose salary we paid, who helped sell us out? Start everlasting wars. See, for me, it's I always just think, had I made the choice to join the military, I graduated June of 2001. I mean, we would have been the first people, shipped off or not far behind the first people, doing several tours for a lie. And again, Veterans Day, how many people are, thinking of their young person in their life who, died for the lie? How many people have died for the lie in the U.S. history, So anyway, I'll do some more investigative work on this. I'm sure there's a whole lot more to these riddles. Don't forget, a week from today, November 18th, that's the 322nd day of the year, leaving 43 days remaining. Yale equals 43. Yale, Skull and Bones, they identified by 322. Think about how right now there's a big voter scandal in Florida at this time, too. Take you back to 2000, George W. Bush, Al Gore. The election was called for Gore, and then they said, wait a minute, it was too close in Florida. We got to go back and do it again. Counted again, and the next thing you knew, George W. Bush had the votes, and he was the president-elect. And how odd that it came down to the state Florida, where his brother was the 43rd governor, and then he'd go on to be the 43rd president. Remember, a Skull and Bones like his father. His father was the 41st president. Skull and Bones equals 41. He was also the 43rd vice president to Reagan. So George H.W., 43rd vice. Jeb Bush, 43rd governor. George W. Bush becomes 43rd president. Yale, 43. And when you learn Gematria, you realize Florida sums to 43 too. So does Masonic. And then you think about the letters DC. D's the fourth letter, C's the third. So can't all be a coincidence, can it? It's all a little bit too precise, a little too well thought out. So we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Until next time.